Hey everyone, it's that time again. Another year, another complaint about Battles 2, it seems. It's barely a week in, and I'm already at this point. At least this one is different from before. Why is that, you ask? For one, I'm not making server downtimes or balance changes the main topic here. Ninja Kiwi has gotten better with server downtimes, and this will be the last time I say server downtimes in this video. And by this point, everyone that knows my channel will most likely think of that fake balance changes post I made on the Battles 2 subreddit. I will still cover some stuff from here, but nothing related to towers or bloons. Before I get to that, I am going to do a brief history on how Hall of Masters has evolved so I can set the stage. When the game first started, you had to play 3 games before you received a ranking on the leaderboards. This would be your initial placement, and from this point you move up or down the ranks in a rather erratic way. Even just from the initial placement, there have been cases where the starting rank is absurd, such as losing on all 3 placement matches to high-ranking players and ending up in the top 25%, if not higher. This part becomes important, as I'll explain in detail later. But how was this possible? Idle decay. You lose rank points if you have been idle for too long. Not much is known about the ranking formula, and it changes every few seasons. I think it's overdue for another change. Oh wait, it did change this season. Before, your ranking score would drop 5 points for every 2 hours idle. Shortly before Season 9, they added a 3-day grace period before the idle decay kicks in, and they kept that until this season when they removed idle decay altogether. Okay, that's nice. And I'm happy that's gone now, because it's not like 2 months of not playing would set someone back to Red Bloon Camp skill level. There are cases of players leaving for a few seasons, then coming back and being able to make it into the top 100 on the HOM leaderboard. But you know what is batshit crazy about this current system? When someone who has a ranked win rate below 50% suddenly trumps the HOM leaderboard, yeah, something doesn't seem right with this. You need above a 50% win rate in order to even qualify in the first place. Well, hold that thought, because I haven't even finished explaining HOM as a whole yet. Anyway, you start with 3,500 points when you first enter the Hall of Masters arena now, regardless of when you enter. The decay doesn't kick in until after you play matches, so a very common thing to do once they reach the HOM arena is to camp out and not play any ranked games until the last 3 days so that they don't have to deal with the inactivity decay. So with that inactivity decay gone, doesn't that further incentivize players to do that? Not really. If anything, because players aren't moving on the leaderboard, that actually reduces the incentive since it won't start them off as high in the leaderboards. Sure, it's still higher than the top 50%, but at least it's not the top 25% or even the top 100 anymore, because you'd be surprised how many people struggle in HOM. Since you can't drop out of HOM once you reach it, there's basically no punishment for losing as many times as you'd like, unlike rank mode outside of that. In a way, that is actually fair because that's what all the other arenas are designed to do. They are made for you to build up skill so you can complete with the truly masterful. But it's more of a grind than anything else because there are a few differences between each arena. ZOMG Superdome is really the testament to see how good you are at the game before HOM, since unlike all the arenas below it, you aren't handheld by win streaks. You actually have to show that you're good at winning. And not on those kiddie maps like Docks or Thin Ice. This is where skill actually starts to matter. You might not be the best of the best, but you're getting to that point. Now, I don't want to turn this video into an everything that's wrong with ranked mode type rant, but I do think it's still worth mentioning these points. If you have this many arenas, with the only incentive being to grind, then the game isn't fun. And that's why a good portion of players would burn out at Lead Dungeon or maybe Ceramic Crucible when starting out. Having the map availability change more often would help give the player a sense of progression and not just a grind most of the time. In fact, I would even say that BSB Coliseum should have the same map restrictions as ZOMG, just for the simple sake of the difficulty spike being too great at ZOMG Superdome, with the added hard maps, and remove the easy maps, as well as the win streak bonus removal at the same time. Splitting it up will lessen that burden. The difficulty spike is already bad enough from ZOMG Superdome to Hall of Masters. We don't need a second one of those. Okay, back to HOM now. I vaguely got to the placement formula, and again, that's because it's largely unknown. Well, most of us would know it as an ELO rating system, right? Alan and Sam from Ninja Kiwi even mention it's ELO. However, it's just a simplification of the actual system, and thanks to some old game files available for this game, we can get some insight into what's going on. This screenshot is a profile sample from HOM, and we see multiple variables. Sure enough, there's a rating, but there's also a deviation and volatility variable, both of which are not from ELO, but rather from Glico2. So what is Glico2? It's a rating system that's meant to be an improvement from ELO. Instead of it being a one-size-fits-all type of rating, this one varies based on not just a player's skill, but also their performance consistency. Here's what I mean by that. Suppose I have 3,450 rank points, with a deviation of 50, and I am matched up against someone fresh into HOM with 3,500 rank points and a deviation of 150. From the rank points alone, it seems like I have a lower chance of winning a match, and the lower deviation indicates my performance has been consistent. But my opponent is just starting out, so the true ranking is largely unknown, hence the higher deviation. The game then calculates the odds of each player winning a match. That's how it's supposed to work, and I'm giving an oversimplified example of this. Even though at heart this is Glico, Ninja Kiwi's Hall of Masters scoring system is still slightly different. Normally, all the rating deviation, and volatility values update after each set of games. Here's the kicker. Remember those placement games from the beginning of the video? Yep, they haven't really gone anywhere, and in fact, all the games played from the previous HOM season are used to determine the rating deviation and volatility for the next time you go into HOM, while the rating updates after each game played. So congratulations, Rymahog, you had it right all along for over the last year, and only recently did someone really take it to the next level. When I said there's basically no punishment for losing as many times as you like, I really meant no punishment. If anything, it seems like you're actually rewarded for losing lots of games, which is definitely not supposed to happen. Before Foxy Ops managed to snag the top spot in the Hall of Masters leaderboard, they played 4 seasons in the bottom 25%. By doing so, they were able to manipulate the volatility and deviation to an elevated amount. Then, when the next season starts, Foxy Ops can use that high volatility and deviation to amplify their gains while keeping their losses low. So even with the 50% win rate, they can still gradually move up the leaderboard instead of staying in the middle of the leaderboard like it should be. So what should be done? Honestly, I'm not too sure, but I know this rating system needs to be changed since it's evidently getting out of hand. I've thrown a couple ideas around before, but I couldn't help but do some research to see what other rating systems popular PvP games use. And it's also worth noting that Bloons TD Battles 2 is not alone with this problem. Pokemon Go, the Silk Road, also has this problem, among a very exhaustive list of other games. I'll put up a few different ways to change the scoring system, ranging from the simplest changes from the current design to complete reworks. Before I even begin with listing them, I just want to get it out of the way. Reset the hidden stats as well as the rating score for each season, just like how it was done the first 8 seasons. It's really dumb that they made this change in the first place, because if a really good player used the meta loadout in that season and then it gets nerfed, then that doubly hurts the player the next season. This is also the reason I'm not a fan of mid-season balance changes and would prefer to have shorter seasons. Hey, in that case might as well just half the cosmetics each season so there isn't as much pressure. But I'm getting off topic. Let's go. Suggestion number 1. Add placement matches back in, but have them track before HOM. There are multiple ways I could see this implemented. Everyone could have their rank score hidden until they get to HOM, or the way that I was thinking of was tracking your win rate throughout the season leading up to HOM, and let that determine where you start on the leaderboard. This would need some tweaking, of course, since starting in first place for getting a win streak is unfair, and I can see this being exploited. Something like your win rate minus 25% up should be your initial placement on the leaderboard. So if you get a perfect win streak, you get placed in the top 25%, and a 75% win rate would put you in the top 50%, dead center on the leaderboard. This can be combined with any of the following suggestions. Suggestion number 2. Add a rubber banding effect. Basically, if your rank score is too high or too low, losses from games will be amplified or reduced, respectively, by some factor. Even with Idle Decay being removed from the game, the average score is still lower than the starting amount, although not by a couple hundred points anymore, due to disconnects on the first round resulting in the winner receiving no points, while the loser still loses the usual amount. In addition, a lot of the high scores are concentrated at the top of the leaderboard, so it skews the score more toward the lower values. The idea here is to introduce some rubber banding so that players that are higher up don't end up getting a huge breakaway, and lower players aren't punished as much and can inject ranking points into the system, although higher players can offset this. Again, the thresholds depend on the circumstance. Adding a rubber banding effect can help with keeping the distribution balanced. Bloons Monkey City Flash's city honor system is actually similar to this, and this brings me to my next suggestion. Suggestion number 3, just stick to ELO. It's clear that Ninja Kiwi doesn't quite understand what they're doing with this ranking system that appears to be a pseudo-Glico rating system. Hell, even a pseudo-ELO system is good enough and not too difficult to code. The BMC Flash one doesn't look too daunting, does it? Or maybe go with something even simpler. Just do it like the trophy system. I would say Battles Mobile Prestige too, but at least that one has a little more complexity since different arenas give different values. Here, it's just one single arena. I've seen this idea tossed around too, but I don't want to run the risk of oversimplifying it, so I'm not a fan of this system. It's meant to be different from all the preceding arenas anyway, and that's fine. Anyway, that pretty much covers all the bases for me. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'm praying that Ninja Kiwi will fix this flaw soon, even if it means a mid-season balance update.